Welcome to an afternoon showcase of SEC gymnastics. First up, the rivalry continues. Alabama at Georgia. The legacy built by Sarah and Suzanne continues with Dana and Dana. Then the defending SEC champions, the Florida Gators, set their sights on this year's regular season crown at LSU, where they'll have to try to tame the Tigers and their roster of some of the top athletes in the country. Stay with us for a matinee of the nation's top gymnasts on a special doubleheader, Friday Night Heights Special Edition. Welcome to Stegman Coliseum for the 142nd meeting in this historic rivalry between 8th-ranked Alabama and 8th-ranked Georgia. Welcome to Friday Night Heights Special Edition presented by Belt. I'm Holly Rowe along with Courtney Kupets-Carter. Lauren Sisser will join us in a minute. And Courtney, you are a 4-time national champion for Georgia. You have lived and breathed this rivalry. What makes it so special?
That it's still alive. It's so impressive. These athletes, when they come out here, it's intense. They both want to win, and they both can do that tonight.
They will have a tall order cut out. There's some last-minute changes in the lineups for both teams due to injury and health issues. We'll keep you posted on that. 16 national championships between these two teams, 25 SEC championships. The rivalry is intense. Coming up for Georgia on vault, Ashlyn Broussard has led off every single meet but one this season for them on this apparatus. Let's see how she gets the gym dogs off to a great tone and sets that tone today.
And she is a senior, so she has been around this intense competition for several years. Does a nice Yurchenko full, great body position in the air. Did not find that first landing. I feel like it's so key to find the first landing to get that momentum going, but she did have a nice vault in the air, and you could just see the small hop. And Dana, she's excited. She knows, look, this is a good start for us right now.
For Alabama, Asia Sims will lead them off on bars. Her coach said, you know, she has really been struggling to find consistency in practice and meets the last couple of weeks. What did she tell you before today's event?
That she had this, that she let go of what she's done in the past, and I believe it. She also said, I love gymnastics. I don't want this sport to be over, and that's what you're going to do when you're a senior. You're going to give it everything you've got.
It was the release move that she has struggled on the last couple of weeks. She hit it there.
Just has to find this dismount, the double layout. Small hop forward. You could see her chest just a little bit forward. But again, she stayed on, so that's important for her tonight.
Now here's Lauren with more on that vault lineup change.
Beth Roberts came down with strep throat earlier this week. Dana Durante said she slept all day and texted her last night and said, look, don't give up on me. I want to come out here. I want to compete today. Of course, they warmed her up on vault. She just wasn't quite ready to go. Morgan Reynolds looked the part. She's up next in the lineup.
And that's very important. You really do look at warm-ups if you have a situation you don't know what to do. Is the athlete ready to go? Warm-ups is a great key factor for that. Morgan is consistent when she goes in. And that's the stuck landing that you're really looking for from that first competitor. But look, it's okay. Second competitor, they can really keep that momentum going.
Last time Morgan Reynolds vaulted was 2 weeks ago, but you'd never know from this beautiful stick.
And again, she has been so consistent in the fact that anytime they need her, she is in great body position in the air, piked it down just a little bit, but finding that landing will really help her score.
And here's an Alabama freshman. They've got quite a few sprinkled throughout their lineup. Shea Mahoney out of Illinois, and this is her first taste of this rivalry. What do you think's going through her mind? You grew up watching this Georgia-Alabama rivalry.
I really think she's probably a little bit more nervous, honestly. It kind of brings the energy and adrenaline you get from a championship kind of competition. So it's a great experience for her leading into SEC championships.
Asia Sims got a 9.850 leading off, and there's a break in routine there, it looked like. See if she can power through this.
And she wasn't able to catch that shaposh earlier, that release to that high bar in warm-up, so she was probably struggling with the distance of the bars. So being able to catch it and continue with the routine is a great fight that she is showing. A little bit of that knee buckle at the end there on that dismount, but good height in the air and overall a nice routine.
Where did she run into trouble here, Courtney?
And it was on that first skill, the chapache. You could just see she did that extra swing, but that's actually okay. She might connect that sometimes, but that swing is fine as long as you keep it going. And she did a kip after it. So it looks like it might have been a little bit of a hiccup, but for her, no, she kept it smooth and continued her routine.
So here is Lauren Johnson coming back from an ACL tear. She's got 1 year of eligibility left. The senior could move on in her career, but there is a spot waiting for her if she wants to return to Georgia.
And she gets some big air when she does her vault. She was a co-SEC champion on the vault. And this is why. When she hits that table, you see her shoulders completely open, gets the height in the air before she does that twist and does not have to pike her hips down when she lands.
Do you give her the stick? She went up on her toes. She didn't move her feet backwards. She went up on her toes. Do you give her the stick?
Well, then technically she did not move her feet, and that's what I mostly look at. But I'm sure there is a little bit of an error where you lift those heels off, as long as you don't move them, though.
Amanda Jeter, the senior for Alabama, next up on the bars. And boy, is she a gorgeous worker on this apparatus. The long lines, the beautiful toes and feet make her a standout.
She has a nice first release. And you're right, her legs and keeping them together the entire time, showing that beautiful handstand on that low bar. Just the technique she brings to the uneven bars is beautiful.
Gorgeous handstand for the senior out of Milford, Ohio.
And that double front dismount, disappointed that she has actually stuck that several times this year in competition, a very difficult dismount to stick. And just tonight, didn't find that lift off the bar.
What she did perfectly, though, were these handstands. Good on the low bar, but then look how she nails this up top.
And that's so important. At this point in season, it's literally coming down to the handstands and landings. If you don't hit all of your handstands and get those landings in, you're going to be down a few tenths from your competitors.
Here's Gigi Marino. She's got a career high of 9.9 on vault, but this season her high is a 9.85. Can she improve it?
And she did the Yurchenko 1.5 worth a 10.0. She's been doing fulls here and there. She had some ankle issues in the beginning of the season. Nice block off the horse. Probably could have had a little bit more distance and height. But overall, this is the type of vault you need. You need the 10.0 start values now just to contend with the rest of the country.
Lauren, there's more news for Alabama on their bar lineup.
Yeah, Keely McNear typically in that bar lineup. She was in a car accident on Thursday. You'll see she's wearing a splint on her right hand. She broke her pinky finger. Doctors saying at least 2 weeks before she can get back. Keely, though, has quite a different attitude. She's saying, I'll put weight on it next week. I'm optimistic that I'm going to be back. And she said, look, it could have been a lot worse.
So they will have a new competitor here. You know, the importance of Keely McNear is she leads them off on 3 different events. As we see, Jeter had a 9.75. And that's a beautiful bar set from Winter Childers.
She really did. She got up there and did what she needed to do in this bar lineup. Bars has been a little bit of a rough spot, I think, for Alabama, just in the details. They've been hitting routines, but the details is what they needed. And that was probably one of her best routines this season.
Alabama ranked 6th in the country on that apparatus. Always room for improvement. And here is one of my favorite freshmen we've seen in the league this year. Rachel Dixon gets better every single week. And to that point, she's lower in the lineup. Her scores have improved. A 6-time Junior Olympic national champion.
And what I really like about Rachel's vaults, let's see if she does it tonight, but she usually emphasizes the open line in her hips as she comes down to land, and that's a very important part for the judges when they're trying to find all those little details and scoring the vaults, is no pike in the hips as she comes down. And like I said, she flares that out.
And here's how you see Georgia kind of going in the wrong direction. They want to start out and build the scores, but Gigi Marino did try for more difficulty with that 1.5. Gets the 9.775.
But again, that is a score they can drop. 2 more competitors to go. Wanting to kind of get more in the 9.9 range would be great for them right now.
6 athletes go on every single event. They have 5 scores that count.
There's that block. You could see the open hips in the air. Came down for that landing. I would have liked her to hold it just a little bit more to show me the full control. Great height, that flare in the middle of the vault. And you can see she is still leaning back, so didn't quite find that landing the way you want to. But a very technically nicely done vault.
So we've had a little glitch here. Kiana Winston already went on the bars. They're usually supposed to wait for our cue, but looked like a good routine based on what we saw from her reaction there.
And we saw a big cheer, and she can get big scores. I would like to think she could almost get a 10 on this event as well. She has a big height when she does a lot of her release moves.
And this is big news for Georgia. Sydney Sneed, we call her Super Sid. She is their best gymnast. She was out of the lineup for 3 weeks fighting through some back issues. She has been back competing the last 2 weeks, although she has modified some of her routines to avoid tweaking that back.
And it's interesting, Dana told us that they were struggling to find their landings. I think they've done an excellent job tonight, really minimizing the steps, but Sydney did not have a problem last week. She nailed it last week, nailed it again. She is just stellar when she competes and a joy to watch.
Sid has 2 9.95s on this event this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see another one tonight.
And just the block off that table, that really what directs her into the 1.5, and that brings her straight down so that she does not have to take those steps.
So very steady vault rotation for Georgia. And now Katie Bailey will go up for Alabama. Katie, a senior, really battling through some injuries and some pains after double hip surgery. As Kiana Winston gets a 9.925 on the bars, a season high.
That's a big score, and hopefully Katie can follow it up with one of her best routines. She has beautiful form, a really smooth swing to her bar routine. Had a few mistakes last week. Doing fantastic right here in this dismount. Beautiful, goes 2 flips above the high bar. Slight step back, but to me that was the only thing I really saw that was a mistake for her. Everything else, body line and handstands were right on top. And watch this, she finishes both flips above that high bar. Usually she's able to, that helps her see the landing. Above the high bar. Comes down a little bit.
So Sydney Sneed gets a career-high 9.950 on the vault to end the rotation for Georgia, giving the high fives. So Coach Dana Durante of Georgia likes what she saw on vault. We'll be back with a second rotation. SEC Gymnastics presented by Belt, the 142nd meeting of the Georgia-Alabama rivalry.
A rivalry to be something that's about 2 amazing teams, truly a legacy of legends, and now it's led by the next generation in Dana versus Dana.
We want what's best for each other. We want those programs to grow. We want our sport to continue to grow.
I pull from my experiences and she pulls from hers. I feel that she's trying to help her athletes find their voice, and I'm trying to help my athletes find their value.
There's an unbelievable respect for what the other person does, for what that program does, for what those athletes do, for what those coaches face, and we absolutely support each other in life.
We are rivals in the arena, but we are supporters in life.
We're all intense competitors, so we support each other outside of the sport, but it's game on when we're on the floor.
Dana Duckworth in her 3rd year for Alabama. Dana Durante is in her 5th season for Georgia, and they are replacing 2 legends, obviously Suzanne Yocklin for Georgia and Sarah Patterson for Alabama, but they are good friends. They're not the rivals that Sarah and Suzanne were, so how are they able to continue this legacy?
Well, I love the fact that they say, yes, they're supporters in life, but when they're on the competition floor, it's go time and they want to win, and I think that's what's so important in gymnastics overall. When you go out to compete, you put everything in, and you've worked hard. They both have been working so hard. They both want to win, and I think that's fantastic. And I love that it can be different, but it's still that rivalry there.
They are actually really good friends. They were elite gymnasts together, and that friendship has continued over for great success. Here's a look at what they're trying to accomplish. LSU and Florida atop the SEC standings. They come up after us, and whoever wins that meet will win the regular season championship. But of course, you want to keep your RQS or your regional qualifying score above that 4th spot so you can compete in the night session of the SEC championships coming up on March 18th. So after one rotation, we've had quite a interesting time already. A 49.4 for Alabama. on the bars. That is one of their top scores. That actually ties their season high that they hit against Florida. Katie Bailey, the SEC and national champion on vault, comes up, and Sydney Sneed will swing to the heights on the bars when Friday Night Heights Special Edition continues.
Groove, make it move, make a move with the groove, make it hoot it, make it who, make it hoot it, move. Make the groove, make it move, make a move with the groove, make it hoot it, make it who, make it.
Welcome to the Friday Night Heights Special Edition, a top 10 matchup, Alabama and Georgia, presented by Belk. After the first rotation, Georgia, a 49.275 on vault. That is a little bit low, but bars a season high for Alabama with a 49.4. More from Lauren now.
After starting the season with a program low of 193.6, this team has risen to new heights, upgrading themselves 22 spots, improving their average more than 3 points. But this is a storied season for this team. They're not yet done writing this next chapter in this book, and of course, if they can win tonight against their greatest rival, it's certainly something they'd love to bookmark.
And Courtney, they started out with a season and program low against LSU, but keep in mind, 7 first-time routines in that meet, and they have continued to grow and really build some experience with this young group.
And that was definitely a little bit of scary score to start out with, but they've really built that consistency in that 196 range. Doing a great job, but they need to pop into that 197 range to really contend.
So Winter Childers thrown into the fire again. This young freshman having to compete in more events than typical today because of the injury in the car accident to Keely McNear.
And there we go. She is really improving. I think she's finding her own in competition. Just a freshman, building on how many events she actually competes. Could use a little bit more height off the table, twist just a little bit early. But overall, body position in the air really helps her find her landing, and that's what you need starting off.
She is a U.S. Junior Olympic national champion on vault in 2015. This is one of her strong apparatus. And here's Morgan Reynolds, the senior, battling back from a near-fatal disease last year, E. coli. She was in the intensive care in the hospital, but she has fought back to be one of the steady rocks for the Georgia Gym Dogs.
And she really has been on bars as well, just improving throughout the season. Nice packed salto to the low bar, finding that height. Really keeping this routine clean, not letting any form breaks happen to bring in more deductions. Double layout dismount. And there's that hold of those feet on that landing I was talking about, Holly. When they hold the landing and show me they do not move, it really does tell the judge that they've landed it. Her first release and her handstands.
She wants to be within that 90-degree meter there, and she is.
And a perfect body line position as well. Legs together on the dismount. She held on to it.
That's what you call selling the stick.
Thank
I love
you.
it. You just want them to sell the stick.
I do.
Okay. Here's Haley Sanders for Alabama. Or excuse me, this is Abby Armbrecht.
And she also, we talk about improvement, and that's what you want to see within a season. You want athletes to maybe start out where they do, but to keep improving, and that's one area where Abby has been doing that on the vault, raising it from 125 to 130 centimeters, and just most improved from Dana's sake in the fact of physically, but also in her mental aspects when she competes.
She said that if I had to give an award for most improved, it would go to Abby Armbrecht this season in her sophomore year. Here's Haley Sanders. And we've got a score in. Morgan Reynolds with a 9.875 on the bars, a career high for her after that stick. And we've seen Haley be a little up and down on this event. I've seen her fall this year, but she's been more consistent lately. What do you expect from her?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised to see that first handstand without much of an arch, and you can see that second one. She does a little bit arch up into her handstand before she hits that vertical position. That is still a little bit of a deduction. But just having so much more confidence when she goes up to compete, and that's what you need.
Second stick of the day on bars for the Gym Dogs.
And here's her release, the piked Jaeger. Good swing out. And there's that little bit of that arch in that handstand, a little bit low on the handstand on the low bar, and those handstands is really what she needs to keep working on.
Lauren has more on vault.
This is one of the greatest atmospheres in college gymnastics, and Alabama is using this to fuel them, to help them. A rivalry-like atmosphere to get them ready and prepared for what's to come on the road when they go to Jacksonville for SECs. The Tide, they're already in prep mode for the conference championship, and will use these final 2 meets to really determine that lineup.
The one consistent in the lineup has been Kiana Winston. She's been all around in many of their meets this year, unless they're nursing those injuries she has.
That's right, and she doesn't need that much training to get out and do her skills. She really is able to go at any point, has a big talent, but also very difficult skills.
Lauren Johnson, as we said, has a decision to make. She had an ACL tear that required a redshirt year, so she's got 1 more year of eligibility, but she is a senior in school, as Haley Sanders with a new career high, a 9.825 on the previous bar routine.
And like vault, she got huge height off the table. She gets big height in that Ginger.
Lauren, one of the most consistent, steady athletes on this team. You just feel it in her presence.
Well, she had a large step in this previously in the year. She needs to find her landing. A small hop, much improved. You'll take that over a large step. And then just watch how high her hips are in this release, way over the bar. She does separate her legs when she catches, which is a deduction, but just the height is amazing. And there's just that little hop on that landing.
And here's a look at those deductions, why you're so strict about it. If you stick it, no deduction, but a small hopper step can be a 1/10 or less, all the way up to a 5/10 deduction. One athlete who doesn't get a lot of deductions is Nikki Guerrero.
She does Yurchenko 1.5. She's gotten some big scores this season. And again, in the air, she does have a slight bend to her knees when she comes down, but I still hear her. She's yelling out there. She gets so emotional with her gymnastics. She gets so excited.
And just
almost found that landing.
Let people know is they changed the rule in the vault and downgraded Yurchenko full to a 9.95. So if it's perfect, you still won't get a 10. So why people are trying to upgrade to that 1.5 is it has a 10-0 start value. So we're seeing more and more athletes try to get that difficulty late in the season. Here's Sydney Sneed, fighting through that back injury this season, wants to be out there with her team.
Nice fight there on that transition to low bar. Held on to that handstand. Just a nice, powerful swing that she has. Double layout. She almost looked like she floated down. She saw that landing. Looked like a piece of cake for her.
Katie Bailey, the national champion on the vault last season, has undergone 2 hip surgeries, but that hasn't slowed her down. A new career high last week against Boise State.
And this vault is just so impressive. I love watching it. It's a little more unique in that it's the layout half, difficult to land. But wow, she's just perfection on that.
She's currently ranked 16 in the NCAA on this apparatus.
And again, nice height in the air. Just not finding those steps, and that happens every once in a while. You can't hit it every single time, and I completely understand that, but she will do it probably 90% of the time, just saving it for later.
Were you happy with what you saw in the air, though? Was that
beautiful? She always, every time, there's no change from her on this vault. Her body line is the straightest you can see it. Her legs are together. I think she even points her toes a little bit.
It's just so gorgeous. It really is, and she'll find that stick. We've seen her do it before. Here's Rachel Dixon, our freshman again, that is such a dynamic athlete to watch. New career high for Sydney Sneed on the bar is a 9.9. 3 out of 4 gymnasts have stuck their landings for Georgia today.
Nice release there. You see she caught a little bit close to the bar, bent her elbows, but you hear her to cheer from her teammates because last week she had a little bit of a struggle, but kept going. And usually in practice, that type of struggle would have made her miss her release. So that's one big improvement the coaches are really excited with her about, that she's really adjusting within her routine to make her skills. And here's her release. It was so high today, but just those bent elbows, you want extended arms as you catch. And then that last handstand, just a little bit short. You need your hips all the way up in that line, so she will get a slight deduction on that handstand.
So Maddie Desch is another one of those athletes who's trying to upgrade from a full to a 1.5 Yurchenko, and let's see if she's able to do it. She did it this week, and they were going to put it in. Let's see if she throws it.
And she went for it, found the landing, had a very large knee bend, but you know what? She has come a long way this season just with her consistency and how she's handled being a freshman on this team.
Well, I know someone who'll throw big skills later today at the Pete Maravich Center. Our gymnastics doubleheader continues. Ashley Natt getting things fired up there for the Tigers. Number 3 Florida and number 2 LSU. The regular season championship on the line. You can also see it on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. They call her Bugs, Ashley Natt. Here's Rachel Schick. She is another beautiful bar worker, the line that you're looking for.
She has it, but she's also dealing with a fractured thumb right now, just working through that pain, and the thing that hurts her most is her shoot over. This release right here, and you can see why, all the pressure going down on her thumb. But you would never know. She looks so calm and collected right now. Beautiful last handstand. Same swing as normal. What a rock star.
That was so beautiful. And to think, she is competing with that broken thumb, as you said, and there's a certain skill that she continues to break it on. That same skill she did that last year. It's not going to stop her.
And here's her last handstand. Just the detail that she brings to this routine. 90 degrees, perfect handstand, and the dismount. Didn't quite find the control, but wow, what a routine.
So Dana Duckworth standing by with Lauren Sisler for more on this Alabama-Georgia rivalry.
Dana, you guys decided to go with the 1.5 for Maddie Desch there. The reaction, the stuck landing. How impressed are you with her ability to do that?
Well, she did it like that all week, and I just wanted her to pop it off that table and trust it. We are having so much fun, and that's what it's about tonight. We have a very specific purpose, and we are having fun, and we're staying in the moment, and I am so proud of them right now.
A little bit of execution on the landings in the first 2 events. What are you telling the team going into the second 2 rotations here?
You know what? It's going to be about doing great gymnastics, being in control of what we can control, and doing what we do best, have fun.
Thanks, Coach.
Well, that rivalry continues. We'll tell you more about the history of this rivalry when we continue here on Friday Night Heights Special Edition. Has made gymnastics what it is. Suzanne Yocklin and Sarah Patterson. The interesting part of this rivalry is Vince Dooley, the beloved Georgia football coach, hired Suzanne just before they were thinking of disbanding the program, and she built it into a legacy. Where Bear Bryant hired Sarah Patterson, she earned $5,000 a year, and he said, just give the little lady what she wants, and she built him a champion.
Well, it's so impressive, and I was on the Georgia side of this rivalry, and I love the fact that I was taught about the legacy of both programs, that it was intense. You wanted to go into Alabama. You wanted to win, and I love the fact that it's still here.
And I love the fact that here in Stegman Coliseum, the biggest mural of every athlete is Courtney Kupetz-Carter, my partner today, and here's Suzanne Yocklin.
Oh,
she
and I have
here.
to brag, that's my little baby.
That is Brooklyn.
And my husband.
And your husband. And, you know, the comparison is huge. 16 national championships shared between the two teams, 25 SEC titles. And, you know, it went back and forth. Either one year Alabama won it, the next year it was Georgia. And even clear in Utah, where I lived growing up, you knew about this rivalry and you watched it every single year.
It really is what brought college gymnastics to the forefront of just gymnastics in itself. Everyone who knows gymnastics knows this, and it's just so powerful in the sport.
So now the new coaches charged with this legacy have to manage it moving forward and continue the championship. We have more coming up next. Alabama trailing Georgia by a slim margin. Sabrina Vega and Kiana Winston, the outstanding all-arounder, when Friday Night Heights continues.
We're gonna was beautiful.
Thank you.
Flat out beautiful. Good job.
I said to you, when you're like, arm straight in the horse, it's going to be there, and then you just like nailed it like a rock star.
Maddie Desch with the 1.5 did look like a rock star as we see Georgia leading by the narrowest of margins of 98.7 over 98.675 for Alabama. Here's more from Lauren Sisler.
When Alabama's Maddie Desch walked here into the arena today, Sabrina Vega saw her from across the floor and did her little signature shoulder shrug to let her know, hey girl, what's up? Why? Because these two girls are best friends. They trained together back in Missouri as elite gymnasts, and this is something, this might be a heated rivalry between these two teams, but it certainly isn't between these two girls.
Of course, Vega is on Georgia. Her best friend Maddie Desch is on Alabama. And Sabrina said, I just can't give her the death stare. I can't look over there without just a great big smile. We know it's a heated rivalry, but we love each other.
And it's so true. So many of these athletes will compete against their teammates from different teams all over. But it's funny the fact that she said, yeah, Maddie went to Alabama. Then after I committed to Georgia, oh, wait a second. How are we going to do this? I don't know. So it's just great to see that they're trying to play with it as best they can.
Georgia coming off a season high on bars, 4 career highs of 49.425. And you see Maddie Desch of Alabama trying to collect herself and really visualize there. Alabama, of course, will go on the floor and then finish things up on the beam. And Georgia will go on the beam right here. And Vega is their leadoff. They're different philosophies on how to throw your athletes. Is do you start with someone who's okay and just hits and build scores from there? And they've chosen the opposite. They're going to put one of their top scorers up first to build scores from that point.
And most of the time, it really has to do with who can hit first up. It's a very difficult position. So not necessarily who's best up or who isn't or where's the scores are at. It's more about the mentality of the athlete when it comes to the balance beam. But it's super impressive when you can have a 9-9 to lead it off. And that's what she did last week.
What's even more impressive, I think, Courtney, is that this is a freshman. So she's a freshman anchoring you on the balance beam, leading you off, trying to set that tone.
Very impressive, but that's her personality. And it's very interesting. She's been wanting to try to be a little bit more composed as an athlete. She is very fun, very bubbly type of person. And I think it's interesting. She tries to be that composure for her team. Great place to do that is here. Saving that side summy element from falling backward. Again, making the adjustments she needs to stay on this beam for her team.
You might recognize Sabrina's name. She was on Team USA for 5 years, competed in the 2012 Olympic trials.
Just her dismount left. Side aerial into a back full. I think she definitely had composure throughout that routine. Even through the small mistakes, she was really able to keep herself on top of her skills. And this dismount, chest up when she lands, no movement of the feet, just what you want from a starter.
I think we've seen from Georgia that the sticks are contagious, so she sticks that landing. We'll see if that carries on throughout her teammates. So Ari Guerra leads things off for Alabama on the floor. She's done that most of the season.
Now she's capable of a lot of different difficulty. Won't be competing all of it tonight, which means she starts out with a very sky-high double back. Not the most difficult thing we will see, but she really takes it up.
She is working on a double layout. How soon in the future might we see her add that difficulty?
It's still a possibility. She's still working it in the gym. They have one more meet in that regular season. I don't think you would put it up your first time at SECs, but we've seen it done before.
Alabama hosts senior night next Saturday. Iowa State comes to town, so should have a chance there. And that is something you see gymnasts do throughout the course of the year. They have their routines, but they will upgrade their level of difficulty as the season goes on to increase their scores.
she's another athlete who has overcome so much adversity, had a very hard back injury before coming to college in her freshman year last year. Was just incredible on this apparatus. Continues to be that now for her team.
What a finish. The dismount was sky high.
She has a lot of bounce in her legs, and again, we talked about she does have that difficulty. She doesn't bring it, but what she does compete, she does so well. Here was her first pass, the double back, just the control she is able to bring to her landings. And that last pass, the double pike, just a nice stretch up with those shoulders. That's going to be a great score for her.
Alabama ranked 4th in the nation on the floor. Their season high of 49.625 out of 50. As Haley Sanders starts things off here on the beam, the second competitor, I should say, for Georgia. Lauren, what do you have?
You talk about keeping the girls loose. You see the girls down here bouncing around, having a good time. And this time of year, you really do have to keep these girls in that mindset of pushing harder. And it's something the Georgia coaching staff has really worked hard on. Every once in a while, if they have a good practice, they'll say, all right, you guys are free to go. And Courtney, I know when you get that early dismissal, it feels like you get to have the whole month off.
Well, it's funny, if they're not used to it, that would be a big surprise. But I love that type of training, where you have to come in, do one routine, and get out of there. For the fact of this type of beam performance, you have to be able to get up your one moment, your one opportunity to compete, and be able to hit it.
Sabrina Vega had a 9.85 for Georgia to lead things off on the balance beam.
And that standing front into her jump, it's very difficult for Haley. Most people will walk into it, dismount. She has built so much confidence through the consistency she has brought on the balance beam.
The sticking is contagious for the Georgia Gym Dogs. Well, the softball season is in full swing. Oh, yes, I'm so excited. This Saturday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll have number 12 LSU taking on number 3 Auburn for Moore Field in the second game of their 3-game series. It's also streaming live on the ESPN app and Watch ESPN. Okay, Auburn has come out of the gates swinging. They look so good in softball, Courtney. They were in the national championship semis last year.
I will take your word from it.
Yes, no, you just wait. That's going to be a killer series, LSU and Auburn. Okay, back to gymnastics. Focus, Holly Rowe. Here we go. Winter Childers, after Ari Guerra posts a 9.9 to start things off for Alabama, a career high. The momentum building for both teams.
It really is building. You can tell they are having fun. And Winter right now, her first tumbling pass, nailed it, 2 feet together. Very impressive. This is only her second routine to compete.
And just keep a look at her facial expressions. No one in America has a cuter facial expression on every move on the floor than this young lady.
She really just draws you in to this routine, which so many of these Alabama athletes do. You have to find your own personality on this team to be noticed, I feel like.
I just love her face. Of course, Alabama threw their season high, that 49.625 against Florida. The 6th highest score in school history. See if they can use this rivalry to fuel them to either greater heights.
She got a 9.85 versus Auburn in her first floor competition. I really think she might be able to bump that score up from this routine.
I'm glad I'm not a judge. I would give her 2/10 just for her facial expressions there. And here's Rachel Dickerson. Her beam RQS is a little bit low because she has struggled on beam at times this season, but lately not so much. This freshman in the all-around has started to really grow.
She really has. She was put in an all-around when she needed to fill in a few spots, and ever since she has been in that all-around position because she has earned it, but also because she was able to show she had the potential to do that on every single event.
And her challenge has been staying on the balance beam, and you can really see this determination, and her body language is a little tighter at this point in the season as she has a balance check.
And that's what head coach Dana had talked about. Just her freshman nerves seem to be getting to her at first, but those are getting under control as the season progresses. Had the one small balance check at the beginning.
But that was solid. Her acro series was solid.
Full control, and that's definitely the mindset, more of a sophomore, junior, being able to take one wobble, stop it there, not let it get worse.
Coach Dana Durante has said that if anything, they had to really kind of calm Rachel down. She is so bouncy and personable, and they really wanted to bring all that energy in into focus.
And we're going to see a different dismount from her. She used to do the round-off double full. She will now do a back handspring to a 1.5 because her foot was hurting. Said, let's try this one. 3 days later, was nailing it in the gym, and now she's competed it. I think that's very impressive to take a brand new dismount, throw it into the competition, and here it is, the back handspring step out, 1.5 twists. Didn't find that landing, it is new. But if it doesn't hurt your foot and you're going to have an all-around athlete for the rest of the season, that's a very smart choice.
You know, Dana Durante said one of the areas their team has really grown is communication. Is, you know, it used to be 6 weeks in, someone finally said, hey, that really hurts when I do this. She's like, no, I need to know now. Communicate. Let me know how you're feeling. And that's really where this inexperienced group has grown. Oh, hello, Maddie Dash. Look right in the camera and sell us your floor routine as we see Winter Childers with a 9.875, a career high. As you said, you called it, Courtney. You knew her score was going to be better for Alabama.
And it leads in to Maddie's routine as well. That is a double Arabian, very difficult first pass. She's had trouble with it earlier in the season, and she's starting to nail it every single time. At this pass, 1.5, front layout half, jump, front tuck. I just love saying it. It is so much fun, and I'm sure she has a blast doing it.
Well, it's pretty dang fun watching it, too. I will tell you that. Maddie, one of these freshmen that have come in and really invigorated this Alabama team. They have 6 seniors that will go out on senior night next week, but look at the future of Bama gymnastics.
It is very bright. And when you have athletes coming in like Maddie Dash, like Winter Childers, in their freshman season contributing to this level team with lots of difficulty.
We have seen Alabama a lot this season as she prepares for this final pass. And I have to say, this is one of the most confident, aggressive meets I've seen from them. Like, they're going for it, Courtney.
It really is, because I think they're having fun, but also that's what Georgia brings out of you. It really does for this Alabama team.
It is the rivalry, baby, and you can see it here in her second pass.
So much fun. 4 elements, 1.5 twists, front layout half, a split jump right into that front tuck, which is difficult. She's going backward, transitions into the leap, which goes straight up in the air, then transitions forward. Beautiful.
Well, stay with us because we have some awesome gymnastics coming up next. Alex McMurtry of Florida, perfect 10 on the floor last week for the Florida Gators. They've had a few. Kennedy Baker also has had some perfect scores. They are competing against LSU for the SEC regular season championship, and you're not a fan of that. You think it should come down to March 18th, the SEC championship, right?
I do. I think it's just new. I think it's great to honor that team that was most consistent, but the real SEC champion won't be till Jacksonville for me. I'm waiting for that one.
You want that person that steps up in that meet, the team that shows up in that meet to be the real champs,
and
right?
That's always what gymnastics is about. You get one chance to go out there and hit it.
It's new. This year they decided to award a regular and postseason champion, so we appreciate their efforts, but Courtney says no, so I'm on her side. Here's Ashlyn Broussard. Beautiful beam worker, has really become one of their best.
She's always had that in her. She's just had a lot of inconsistencies throughout her career, but when she hits, she can definitely go 9.9 or above. And there's a little bit of that inconsistency we've seen from her. She has had several 9.9s, even 9.95 this year on this event. It's that risk versus reward with how high she can bring on these scores. Unfortunate, they can't drop this score, so they will need their teammates behind to pick it back up. The side aerial, you can just see her chest didn't lift up. It was already on the side, on the right side of that balance beam.
You can see that balance
brings it right off with those feet. That's right. And when your chest is off, not on top of the balance beam, you're going to go either way unless you can hold on with those feet, and she just couldn't do it this time.
We'll check in with Lauren over at the floor.
I want to put into perspective here how important depth is for this Alabama team. Of 18 gymnasts on this roster, 15 have gone at least twice in the competitive lineup this season. So if you're 8 or 9 in the lineup, you're trusted to go out there and perform and do your job. And depth will be a huge advantage for this team, especially going into the postseason when they can shake up the lineups.
And Lauren, you're so right. We've seen depth be a big factor for Alabama. Keep in mind, Keely McNair, one of their very best anchors on this team, out after a car accident. They've had injury, but they've been building that depth all season. As she said, 18 gymnasts, 15 have had compete in the lineup.
It's amazing, and that's just a way to really give the opportunity to that depth to get the experience. If they don't have the experience and you need to put them in a championship event, you're putting a little bit risk out there. And Katie Bailey is someone that you could definitely count on when she goes into the lineup.
Well, as we said, she's a senior. One point this season, her coach and she were talking about, can I make it through during all these injuries and all the pain her body was in? And coach said, you've got 95 days left. Do you have it in you? And she said, yes. Now she's down to just 3 weeks left in her college season.
And at the time, I'm sure, with all the pain, it's very difficult to go through. But that decision was probably the best one for her, being able to finish out her college career, her gymnastics career on this note.
She's so steady. I feel like she's someone that Alabama counts on every single routine.
They certainly do. When she goes in, you know she will be able to deliver a beautiful routine, and that's just because she's consistent with how she tumbles. Chest up in the air on that takeoff, legs together, finding the landing. It has a little bit of that extra sassiness she's added in this year.
Alabama with the lead. They're really crushing it on the floor. But now the pressure's on for Georgia, because with one fall already, they can drop one score. Everyone else must hit, so they don't have to count a fall. That would likely give away the meet.
They've had to deal with that situation a few times this season. They've handled it well. Vivi starting off very solid.
Vivi Babelis, always so beautiful, the junior out of Quebec.
And in practice, they've really regrouped and tried to work mostly on team atmosphere, working together as a team on balance beam. Only one day a week do they work on individual skills on their own to keep getting better. And that's one thing Dana has said has helped them with their consistency on beam. We can see a few wobbles here and there, but the fight is there and they continue to get better.
You know, we're nearing the end of a long regular season, and fatigue and injury could be creeping up for these ladies. And Dana said, keeping them off their legs. As she has a strong dismount after a couple of wobbles. That was pretty steady after a fall.
Very steady. She did have a few wobbles here and there, but that's a routine you're really looking for after a fall. Finishing up on her dismount, she does a front full. She is capable of bigger difficulty, the double back, but if she can't land it in practice with less than a tenth, it's just not worth the extra difficulty for her to do it.
So here's Kiana Winston. She has a perfect 10 on this event. You can see how high her RQS. If you don't know what that means, a regional qualifying score, you take 6 of their best scores, 3 of them have to be road scores, and you drop the highest one. So the 5 scores then are an average of an RQS. So her RQS is a 9950 on this event. Hello!
That's pretty impressive.
Pretty dang impressive.
And it just leads into that consistency. Double layout. Wow. She rotated that so fast.
7 times this season, Kiana has scored a 995 or better.
And I really believe those scores come because she's powerful, but she has technique within her skills, tumbling, but also her dance. You'll notice when she does her leap combinations, which they need some bonus in their routine, her legs go so high. She passes that 180-degree mark.
And the toe point, the elegance, she really is the total package on the floor. You know, we told you she fights through some genetically loose joints. She's got those knees taped up. They've rested her at times this year because of a loose shoulder, and they have gotten the most for their money out of Kiana Winston.
Just the final pass, double back. I don't know. That was pretty darn good. Take a look at her first pass again, her double layout. I mentioned her rotation is so fast, but not only that, the height she gets, opening those hips. And the whole team looks like they're working with her through the entire dance.
Even Dana Duckworth, the coach, getting in on the hand movement. You know, gymnastics is such an individual sport. Your whole growing up period, you're an elite, you're cutthroat, and then you get into this team atmosphere. How hard is it for people like Kiana Winston and Rachel Schick now on Beam to become part of a team?
It's actually not hard. It's different, but it becomes so enjoyable, and it actually increases the level of your competition.
Again, we told you Rachel competing with that broken thumb. We said she would have to be dragged out of here to not compete. They think she is so focused, and another one of those beautiful beam workers with the line and the toe point.
And because of that fracture in her thumb, they rearranged this beam routine just a little bit. They took out a front handspring switch leap that she usually has, and you can see that pause and that connection there. Regaining it, making sure she has a leap connection. But they took out that front handspring to make sure she only landed on her hands twice on the balance beam. She has to in her series, the back handspring layout, and has to in her dismount. So trying to minimize that pressure on her hand as much as possible.
This is a little bit of an uncharacteristic routine for Rachel. She is usually so solid, and there's just a lot of small balance checks. She looks a little bit nervous to me.
A little bit, and that has to do, I believe, probably with the fall in front. She's trying a little bit too hard to stay on that beam instead of staying within herself.
But boy, did she nail the landing. I spoke too soon. That was a gorgeous stick on the dismount.
And she fought the entire way through. I think that's what's most important right now for this Georgia beam team. Her dismount, cartwheel, gainer full off the side, not taking any deductions on that dismount.
And so now the pressure's off. Only one athlete fell on beam. They'll be able to drop that score from Ashlyn Broussard. And now buckle up. This is going to be a fantastic ride with Asia Sims on the floor. The senior that we don't want to see ever leave gymnastics. We love her. You saw Kiana Winston, a 9.95, big score.
Asia also starts with a big tumbling pass usually, but now back to the double pike. She's able to do double Arabian.
We actually spent some time in the gym and learned the dance portions of this routine, and I will say, after doing it, I left with a lot of appreciation for how hard her dance is. We were exhausted.
You get very winded when you try to do these dance movements, and I'm sure they looked nothing like this when we tried. But at the same time, you really have to work your endurance, and that's what they start in fall with just the training and the conditioning they do attached to the gymnastics. It's very difficult, but they make it look so easy, don't they?
Now she's going to point to the crowd here. Step back, get ready for the dismount. We know the names for all these routines now. We're very hip on this. Gorgeous. Double back. Got a dab coming up here. Dab. To the snake on the end. And the point to the crowd, to her teammates.
So she had just a slight error on her middle pass, just that connection with her tumbling. Didn't quite have that pop out of her hips. And here's the first pass, the double pike. Just had that big step back. Had a little bit too much adrenaline going for her. She was excited.
So here is the drama that is building on the final rotation. Alabama puts up some monster scores on the floor. Not so much for Georgia on the beam. Let's check in now with Lauren Sisler. she's standing by with Dana.
Real quickly, I'm sorry. A little discrepancy here on the beam. What's going on?
Well, you have to have a C leap into the two leaps connected. One has to be a C. Rachel she broke that connection. One judge had it, one judge didn't. So we'll see what they end up coming up with.
Obviously, coming down to the final rotation, tense matter. Yeah. How is your team feeding off this energy right now?
Which is why I said that. I think we knew it was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be right down to the last routine. So proud of the way the last two athletes finished on beam and kept it going. We're excited to go to floor.
Thank you, Dana.
So the judges will confer. You brought that up, Courtney. She didn't get that leap series connected on beam. She tried to throw one in later. We'll see if they give her the score when we return. It is coming down to the final rotation. This rivalry wouldn't have it any other way. Alabama has a narrow lead going into the final rotation over the Georgia Gym Dogs. Well, coming up next, we've got more fantastic gymnastics. Dee Bro has run the last two regular season meetings against Florida, but the regular season SEC championship is on the line. 2 versus 3, LSU and Florida. That's coming up next. Our two Olympians, Bart Connor and Kathy Johnson-Clark, and along with Laura Rutledge, we'll have that covered for you. And really, this is a postseason look for the nation at LSU and Florida coming in there, because they're really two of the top contenders for the national championship.
And I'm actually very excited for this competition next, because LSU has been a little bit more consistent at the beginning of season, but Florida, man, they have been popping in some high scores, getting their difficulty around, performing 10s. It's going to be intense on who wins this one. It's kind of a preparation for both of them to see where they're at for
I think Florida has
championships.
3 10s on this season. Alex McMurtry with their latest. Their RQS is sky high, a 197.495, third in the nation, and LSU's is even better, a 197.695. Alex McMurphy, that floor last week, she had the perfect 10. And Ashley Knapp, 2 995s in the last week. She's also thrown a perfect 10 this season for LSU. So don't go anywhere. We've got a killer ending ready for you. Who is going to win the 142nd meeting of this rivalry? Coming up next, presented by Belt. Nikki Guerrero keeps us going on the beam, and Gigi Marino on floor for the Gym Dogs. Friday Night Heights Special Edition. Friday Night Heights Special Edition presented by Belt. A top 10 matchup here, and you don't want to go anywhere. The drama continuing to build in this historic rivalry. Who will win on the final rotation? For Georgia, floor is their best event, ranked 6th in the country, and it is their most consistent lineup all season. Alabama, 5th in the nation on the beam. They're capable of monster scores. They will start off with Abby Armbrecht and continue to build with Nikki Guerrero, who's capable of a perfect 10 on this event.
Front aerial into her beat jump connection. Great way to start off her beam routine. And this is she's only had 2 beam routines before this. Big pressure situation for her to show she can handle being first in this lineup.
Abby Armbrecht is just a sophomore, but she has won a national championship in Junior Olympics back in 2013. So a confident beam worker. Just a few wobbles. She looks a little timid right now.
Just a little bit, but she's holding her own. She's very steady and trying to finish each movement. Very difficult sheep jump. She has to throw that head back.
And she really is fighting through this. Can she finish strong?
Round off 1.5. Finds the landing perfectly.
Nothing timid about that dismount. Nailed it.
So a few wobbles within that routine, but to close it out with this dismount, the round off 1.5. Nothing to it. Great exclamation point on that routine.
Big hug from her coach, Dana Duckworth, in her 3rd season. Dana, of course, was a national champion on beam herself, so she knows exactly what that sophomore was going through. And here's the floor lineup. Morgan Reynolds posts a big score to start things off, and they'll continue to grow from there. This is the senior, her final chance in this head-to-head rivalry.
And in there, it showed season highs. They're capable of 5, 9.9 or higher floor routines. That's really what they need to close out this meet. Morgan Reynolds starting it off. Just a beautiful twister. You'll notice in all of her tumbling, she just twists, but she's very capable in really perfecting those twists with her legs together. Back 1.5 to front layout.
Morgan has led off every single meet on the floor for Georgia, and you can see why. Just a confident, steady performer. You know, and I really credit Morgan Reynolds with keeping this team together after that season and program low score to open against LSU. She came up with this saying, gold habits. It's a Warren Buffett quote about how your habits determine your life, and she has helped them build good habits in the gym.
And that is so important when one athlete takes it upon themselves to really help their teammates any way they can. Shows great leadership from her. Front 1.5, again, the twisting she is able to do. Such great technique in the air.
And just think about that, the senior, when her teammates see her in the hospital fighting for her life, come back out and fight to be a part of this team in her senior season. That is leadership.
And here is her second pass, the back 1.5 to front layout, right into her teammate's corner. And that last pass, just closing it off.
Her coach likes it. Dana Durante in her 5th season, trying to continue the legacy here for the Georgia Dim Dogs. And a great start for Georgia. Here's Asia Sims on the balance beam. Asia is a senior from Orlando, Florida. Coming off of some shoulder surgery, has had to modify some of her routines.
And last week she had a beautiful routine leading all the way up into her dismount. There's her back handspring layout. Very aggressive in her movements. Once that dismount happened, she had about 3/10, Dana told us, on her deductions for her dismount. She did the round off double back. Sometimes she does the little guy routine and throws that gainer pike off the end.
But nobody, and I mean nobody, has a better leap series on the beam than her. I mean, that
There is
leg.
no question that that's above 180 degrees for sure. A very determined Asia right now. Going for it, round up double back. It was a larger step on that landing, but you can see she's very happy and less deduction than last week.
This is the time of year she wants to throw the difficulty, and yes, she does.
Big difficulty, and this is very difficult to land, and that's the dismount that Vivi Babelis has taken out as well because she can't find that landing, so it's impressive they're still getting her in there, and I'm sure she's excited about it. She doesn't want to let go of that dismount.
But here's Vivi on the floor. For Lauren, here has a little more for us.
Yeah, Vivi used to walk onto the floor and do a signature chalk drop, but check out her teammates right now, all in position right now, because guess what? They're about to drop that chalk because she got flagged for it for excessive use. I don't know, I like it. I call it personality.
That's right, it can be up to 2/10 deduction for using too much chalk and when it's not needed.
Don't they know LeBron does that? Like, hello, if King James can do it, I think Vivi Babelis can do it. Morgan Reynolds with a 9.875. Each team starts rotation 4 with that 9.875. So no advantage given. That's how tight this is going to come down to.
That's right, Georgia needs to make up a few tenths. They need to find their landings. Can't give anything away right now.
There's her jazz hands inspired by the Sony Michel touchdown dance from her football counterpart. Trying to collect her breath here. Finish strong.
Round off right into that double pike. And a big hop backward. That's going to really cost her.
I think it was crucial that she didn't go out of bounds there. But nonetheless, a significant deduction for Vivi on her final pass. And that might be an issue with these teams so close right now.
And she doesn't do a back handspring like you see most of the time, but in that takeoff, she really just threw her shoulders back a little too aggressively. You want them to be a little bit straighter up in the air, and that's what sent her backward, just a little too much over rotation.
So now the pressure switches over to the freshman. Winter Childers thrown into action because of the car accident to Keely McNair. And Winters has been very steady today. What would you say for her on this beam routine?
Last week, yes, she was cramping in the middle of touch and had to send her teammate in, Mary Lillian, to step in place of her. So she's had to do that to some of her teammates where they had to fill in for her at the last minute. So this is a great way for her to kind of give back to her teammates and really perform for them.
Asia Sims had a 9.85 for Alabama on the beam. So the Crimson Tide holding on to their advantage right now.
Looking very steady in her rhythm from one skill to the next. Split right into that sheep jump that we saw earlier. One of the more difficult jumps, I think. And this is one of the most creative skills. It's called the Liukin. Front toss to a scale. Has to hold her for 2 seconds after.
Of course, named after Nastia Lukin. Competed that in international competition. You get it named after you.
That's right. Fun honor.
Very steady for the freshman. You could see her face. She was so focused on getting that done well.
And the dismount was really where she had any error on that landing, the round off. She does the 1.5. Legs come apart a little bit, and you can see she's on this right side of that balance beam. You really want to land right in front of the beam, so that will be a deduction for the step and for the directional error. But overall, wow, great routine. Holding their own over there on the balance beam.
Now that little sassy walk out onto the floor should sum up everything you need to know about Sabrina Vega and how she loves to shine on this event.
We got to see the composure she's trying to bring on beam, but now we get to see the pizzazz and the fun.
And this is the real version of her. Yes, this is who she is.
Whip, double back. And that's actually a different pass for her. She usually does the full twisting, double back. So they're changing up their tumbling here.
Sabrina has a career high 9.925 on this event. She earned it against North Carolina State earlier this season.
Nice leap combination, really was able to connect those leaps.
That's the best we've seen her do on her leaps. I thought that was one of her better leap passes.
Beautiful. They were 180-degree split. Full split was shown, and she brought those feet all the way around so the judges know there was no mistake there. If your feet are a little bit shy, they can give you some deductions. She really needs to find the landing on this last pass, so they can hopefully drop VV's score. Double pike.
Gorgeous. And here's that new pass you were talking about. A little bit different routine for her here.
Tried to change it into the whip, straight into a double back, which is a really beautiful connection. She stepped out of the side, so it will be a small 10th, but look at the extension in her legs, and those feet come all the way around. Great job.
So Alabama with a very solid beam rotation, starting to really increase that margin right now. But this is a freshman, Maddie Dash, with her first taste of this rivalry. How will she do on the beam?
I'm pretty sure she's going to rock this one, only for the fact that she struggled a little bit earlier this season with just her consistency, but her confidence has really just driven through the roof in her performances.
Beautiful connection of skills there for Maddie.
See out of that turn. She did a few dance moves. It might have been a cover for overturning a little bit, but you could not tell. That's just something that I know I've done in the past. Really did a great job with that.
Michaela Skinner of Utah did the funniest cover-up after her dance routine this week on Beam. It's a GIF now on the internet if you want to Google that. But that's part of the creativity of hopefully the judges don't know your routine that well to kind of cover up some of those little mistakes.
She's so clean and precise, though, in all of these movements. Back handspring, 1.5. Wow. And that is a very difficult thing, I believe, to do your dismount out of back handsprings. Rather than we see a lot of round-offs into those twisting skills. Back handsprings don't generate as much power, so for her to get that landing is very impressive. You see the first back handspring step out into 2-foot landing, 1.5. She is a little bit close to the beam. And again, I believe it's because you just don't generate as much power as you do from a round-off.
But those feet don't move. I'm giving her the stick on the dismount.
She got it.
So Sydney Sneed, here she goes. She has been out of the floor routine because of those back issues. They have modified her routine to take out some of the extension and arches. So we'll see some different passes for her as Sabrina Vega with a 9.875. Halfway through this rotation, Alabama has increased their lead to 0.375.
The whip, 2 back handsprings to the double back, and you can see just that little bit of over rotation getting close to that line. But she usually does a full in, so you need so much more energy for that type of tumbling. Double pike, second pass. Typically she would do that in her third pass. But you know she is so excited to be in this floor lineup. Coach Durante had talked to us about she has to realize floor is not an option right now if her back hurts at all. They need her in vault and bars for those routines, and they don't want her to hurt, so she has to learn to not be selfish. And it's interesting, she's not being selfish by getting in there and competing for her teammates now, changing those skills around. What a team player.
Another fun routine for Sid. Big finish.
Front 1.5. So besides the little bit of extra energy on that first pass, this is a routine Georgia really needed right now.
And that small error can be up to a 10th deduction, I think. Or
round off whip, 2 back handsprings. You can see she's just a little bit high on her hands, over rotates, pikes those hips down, and very close to that line. There's usually a 2-inch line on some mats, and if you're on top of it, here's when you don't step out.
An update on the all-around competition, down to a 10.5 margin coming into this final rotation. Kiana Winston with the lead over Rachel Dixon. She needs a 9.875 here on beam to win the all-around.
And that's something she is very capable of.
her season and career high is a 9.950, so she should be able to get that. Kiana coming out of the Texas Dreams Gym in Fort Worth. Kim Zemeskel runs that gym, one of my favorites. Growing up, I loved watching Kim.
Just a slight wobble on her leap connection. Showing great extension through her legs. Front aerial. Slight hesitation. You can kind of see on her face there as well. She knew it.
She had a funny breath like, uh-oh, did I connect that skill?
She kept it moving, which is typically what the judges are looking for. As long as you keep moving, it's a connection. It's when you pause in between. So she might have had a slight wobble, slight deduction there, but she saved it.
Of course, you can get bonus points. You might have deductions, but then you can gain bonus.
Round off, double back, and just the smallest step on that dismount. Very impressive. And you can see her talking about that slight error on her connection, just probably talking about, I stayed on.
So for Kiana Winston, she needs to score a 9.825 to win this meet for Alabama. Will she get it?
It will be close. She had a few errors there, and you could see just those heels on that connection were to the side. But what a professional athlete, in my opinion, to be able to stay on the beam when things aren't going exactly the way you want.
So it comes down to this. Rachel Dixon needs a big score on the floor, and she's capable. A 9.9 is her season high. Can the freshman step up and upset Alabama?
Double pike first pass. Good landing. She's also capable of more difficulty than she's competing, but she's going to stick with this routine this year. 1.5 to front layout. Again, exactly what you want in your landings, just the full control.
You know, and the composure, I'm again struck. We were here just 3 weeks ago, and I'm just really impressed with how far Rachel has come in her composure, Courtney.
Well, her first floor routine out, she got a 9.95. And after that, Coach Durante said, well, she still has to earn her spot in this lineup. But she filled in. She has to earn her spot. But to get a 9.95 your first time out, that means you're really capable of that every single time.
And she has put together those little pieces to make her so steady.
Looking very determined for Ford. This last pass, double tuck.
A beautiful routine from the freshman, Rachel Dixon. And the score is in for Kiana Winston on the beam. Let's see what they give her. A 9.925 to win the all-around and to give Alabama the win for the meet. 197.6 with one competitor left to go, but Alabama would not have to count her score unless they want to, because it's Nikki Guerrero, and she's capable of a near-perfect score on balance beam. Keep in mind, 6 athletes compete, 5 scores count, and Alabama is trying to build that RQS, and so they want a high road score to count and keep them moving up those national rankings.
Not only can Nikki nail this routine and get a big score, but she can do it under pressure, even after crunching an ankle a couple weeks back, getting back on that beam. No hesitation. 3 series there, very difficult. She makes it look so effortless.
Both teams have one more meet after this before the SEC championship, and then regionals, where 36 teams will qualify to 6 regionals around the country, and the top 2 from the regionals move on to the national championship in St. Louis.
And that's very important. We were talking about it only matters that one competition. Nothing before of what you've done counts at that point, but right now this routine counts for Nikki because she is just so solid all the time, and it just really helps bring this team together to show they have the full potential to getting as far as they can. In her series, handspring, layout, layout. So dependable whenever she gets up on this balance beam. The dismount, nails it into the awesome reaction. She gets so emotional after she finishes. I love it.
She always looks like she did such a great job, but I gauge her how she really did by her face, and that let me know that was a good routine. So Gigi Marino trying to increase this Georgia score. They need their RQS to increase as well. They're trying to break the 197 mark, and they have so far.
Big skill right here, double layout.
Georgia is already at a season high, a 197.175, and they could go even higher if they count this score.
And that's definitely something they will want to do. Great extension in her legs again on those leaps. They need to push that boundary of that 197 as far as they can go.
Again, they're trying to increase their RQS as well, so their seeding is favorable for the NCAAs.
1.5 front layout. Now, and she had, like we talked about, some ankle issues earlier in the season, but she's putting back in her difficulty, so it's sometimes they bring down the difficulty and they keep it there. Not Gigi. Tonight, she's added back in her 1.5, has her double layout on the floor exercise back in.
It's that time of year. The athletes are challenging themselves with more difficulty despite injury. Big finish here.
Double pike a little bit short. But again, I think it's a routine that will probably increase their team total.
So Alabama, their season high is a 197.825 against Florida. They're just under that today, but they get the win at their heated rival, Georgia. We'll wait and see what the final score is for the Georgia Gym Dogs. Can they improve their season high? The rivalry bringing out the best in both teams. Crimson Tide win tonight. They won all 3 meets last year and continue again this season with the win. This Friday Night Heights special edition is presented by Belk, the home of modern Southern style. Visit belk.com today. Matchup has Alabama coming out on top. They beat Georgia 197.7 to 197.325. Kiana Winston is our all-around champion. What did you think of her performance tonight, Courtney?
Amazing. I think she was one reason. She's just one of those links in the chain of this team that keeps them moving further and further. Big night tonight. She had rest last week, came back, great bar set, but Ball powered over that table into an amazing score. Floor really showing the height in her tumbling, but the control in her landings, and the big finish for her was this beam routine. Really kept her calm between some skills, but the dismount, the double back, just a small step, really impressive overall throughout the night for her.
Kiana Winston with your Competing with Style, brought to you by Belk. 39.650, her 5th all-around win of the season. So Alabama comes into Stegman Coliseum and takes one from the Georgia Gym Dogs, but both teams with very high scores, over 197.7 for Alabama, and Georgia with a season high. The rivalry is alive and well in SEC gymnastics. Our final score, Alabama wins it 197.7 over Georgia, 197.325 for Courtney Kupets-Carter and Lauren Sisler. I'm Holly Rose saying so long from Athens. Bart Connor, Kathy Johnson-Clark, take it away. LSU and Florida coming up next.